Well, hello there, and welcome to Martin and Kathy's Coffee Binge. We're so happy that you're here today.
Ah, that's good, Joe.
You did it! Congratulations! World's best cup of coffee. Great job, everybody.
We're in a fight against robots from another planet who want to wipe us out and take the Earth. Probably happens all the time.
If we succeed, there will not be any shield in the future.
Just north of Groom Lake, Nevada, home of Area 51.
We're trying to stop the Chronocoms from stealing a space weapon.
If that thing goes off, it could take out
The entire brain trust of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Daniel Sousa.
Who's that?
He's Peggy Carter's old partner.
Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
GVN presents Martin and Kathy's Coffee Binge. Today's binge:
Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Good morning! Welcome to Martin and Kathy's Coffee Binge with your hosts, Martin Sexton and Kathy Sexton. Go ahead.
Well, you're done. We're done now. You just did the whole thing. I'm useless. Can't believe it.
Quiet over there.
Just I thought it was after I gave you top billing and everything last week. Now you're just stomping all over me.
That's right. I forgot. It's Kathy and Martin's Coffee Binge. Okay.
So, you got that out of your system?
Yeah. I'm good now. Let's go.
So, this is Martin and Kathy's Coffee Binge. And we're going to be talking episode 3 of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But as usual, before we start doing that, I give my wonderful wife Kathy an opportunity to talk about what she wants to talk about. So the floor is yours, my dear.
Okay, so what we're going to talk about is how Martin's going to go get a haircut tomorrow. Hopefully. If not tomorrow, it's going to be Monday. But there's a haircut.
You have somebody coming here for Jeffrey when that happens?
No, we'll take him with us. We've taken him with us before.
I know that was then, this is now.
What the hell are you talking about? That was then, this is now.
This is back when we didn't have to wear a mask and we could all just go in there and sit in the middle of the crowd, but we can't do that anymore.
Well, we'll go, Jeffrey and I'll sit in the car.
Can't do that. But then I'll tell her to cut my hair any way I want. And
Oh, no, I'll walk in and say, cut it all off. And then you'll say, thanks. And then you go, just trim.
I've never tell her that.
This
I
is
tell her to cut it the same.
ridiculous.
I tell her to cut it the same way.
You
I
look
always
like
she always
your
cuts
hair
it.
is longer than mine.
Well, that doesn't mean anything.
Sure it does.
You cut yours like every other week.
No, I don't. I don't cut it every other
You
week.
cut it every other
Though
week.
I did whack all of it off this time because it was just
You
way
didn't
too
whack
much.
all of it off.
Yeah, it's short. It was super short.
All of it off, you'd be bald. You'd have
Well, I wouldn't look good bald. Maybe a mohawk would be all right for me.
Actually, this isn't near as long as I've had it longer.
Yes, you have. As I remember one time when we went out to dinner and the guy thought that we were too girls.
Can I help you, ladies? I'll take it. That'd be really swell. I appreciate it.
That was horrible. I really know you wanted to get up and beat the shit out of it.
Well, like I said,
But you have a great sense of humor, so that was what you did. You said, "Oh."
I say what was no different than back when I was 19 or 20 and someone tried to give me the senior citizens discount because of the gray hair. So,
Hey, let me tell you what, this $3-4 off makes all the difference.
yeah, I mean, I wasn't turning it down. I said, hey, you want to call me old, but give me $3 off? Okay.
That's right. I'm not gonna fight you on it.
I mean, it was Bonanza or something like that, or one of those cheap steak places.
Yeah, I miss those places. There's something about this taste of A1 and one of them, and
The taste of A1.
The taste of A1 and one of those fine steaks from Bonanza.
The Ponderosa.
Yeah, those are great places to go. I do like that though.
Well, say I used to when I worked at the television shop. I would go there for my, I'd eat there alone for my lunch.
You really got to stop telling me those stories because they break my heart every time you tell me those stories. I'm like, I would have been there with you.
It wasn't that big a deal, really.
Well, it was to me. So.
I was just ready to figure out what I was going to do with the other 12 minutes of the 30 I had after I ate that tiny little steak.
Oh, heck.
So, we done here? Got anything else? Nothing?
Yeah, no, so nothing else,
Okay.
Martin. I really thought that I had another thought in mind. I'm not really sure what it was about. So, we'll move on here. Now it's time to talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay. And episode 3, which was Alien Commies from the Future. What was your first thoughts about
Alien Commies from the Future?
Yeah.
That's right. Well, the bottom line is
Okay.
on this show, I really liked that Gemma played Agent Carter. I really thought that was really cute, and I liked that. It was hilarious to me that her partner Sousa showed up at the site where he would be anyway normally.
Well, and that brings up a point. I said, and of course, Jim has been pretty much most of them are giant fans of Peggy Carter.
Right.
Of course, Jim was a fan of Peggy Carter because she was British.
Right.
Which I almost question why in the world you would do that. Okay, now Daniel Sousa was around. He's
Right.
Peggy Carter's partner. If Daniel Sousa was around, Peggy Carter's around too. Why would you decide to pretend to be somebody that as a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent could possibly show up wherever you're at? In this case, it wasn't her. It was Daniel Sousa, which was her partner. But the minute he showed up, and be honest with you, when the thing started, I thought he maybe didn't remember because he went along with it kind of nicely initially when she turned around.
Yeah.
Though he must have did still something about Peggy because right before he went to go find her, he looked in the window and was fixing his hair to make sure he looked good.
Yes, he did.
Of course, if you've ever watched Agent Carter, the TV series, which got canceled after 2 seasons, him and Peggy were together at the end of it. Of course, now they've screwed that whole thing up with
now they have
Endgame thing, which is a whole nother, again, that whole time travel thing that we'll get into sometime. But anyway, so, of course...
That doesn't mean that those things didn't happen. And this is the part of the time travel thing that I find a little bit baffling. Okay? If time travel is done and in the very beginning of this it's ripples not waves, okay, but you still could cause things to happen.
Well, and this is the thing that confused me. We weren't going to get into this, but now that we're talking about where we are.
Well,
okay, so in season 5, Fitz they go into the future. Fitz is left in the past.
Right.
He gets in the cryogenic chamber and freezes himself and sleeps till he gets to the future.
Right. 70 years.
Right. So then the future...
wait a minute. He really doesn't sleep till he gets to 70.
Well, actually, again, this is where you start getting into this confusion. The original season 5, he slept all the way to 70 years.
Right.
And came out and was caught up to the rest of the team.
Right.
So then they find their way back, and the past Fitz, who was frozen and went to the future, comes back to the past with them. But somehow the Fitz that was frozen is still up in space. So if you go by that theory, Captain America goes to the past to be with Peggy. What happened to the frozen Captain America? Did he come back before he crashed the plane and got frozen? Is there still another Steve Rogers frozen underneath? Kind of like the Fitz thing where
Well, he went back in time and then he just lived his life.
I know, but still, at that time, Steve Rogers, depending on when he came back, was in the water frozen up.
We're gonna what we're gonna have to do? We're gonna have to have a whole wall in the dining room where we put
string.
Here's your timeline, Captain America, and here's your timeline, all you other people. Well, it doesn't matter.
So they're talking like it was an alternate time thing again, and that just confuses things.
I just want to know, when do I get to see Fitz, and where is he?
Oh yes, and I guess at least through 3 episodes, we're still asking that question.
I know it. I just can't take it anymore. I need to see him this coming up episode, and it don't look like I'm going to see him then either.
Well, it's going to happen sooner or later, and for the reasons we discussed last time.
Well, he has to, and he's probably taking care of their child right now, and I would like to know what's going on.
Okay, so
right, go ahead. Or is
again,
it him and the other Gemma?
Oh.
Now, that's why she feels like an LMD, like everybody keeps saying.
Well, no, she doesn't feel like it.
I didn't say that. I
other
didn't say
people-
she wasn't.
No.
I said she. Never mind. Let's
Right.
move on.
Other people have said that. Okay, so anyway, so they went to 1955.
Yes.
So of course, now this is one thing that Agents of Shield has always been great at is their title cards.
Oh yeah.
You know that they change it to whatever situation they're in.
Right, I do.
You
like
know, like
that.
when they're Agents of Hydra, they change it to
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Well,
that
of course,
was so cool.
and this one they started out with the noir black and white
Yeah.
title card. Now they're in 1955 and they're doing the sci-fi thing. They're doing the Roger Corman kind of sci-fi monster looking thing. I'm always looking forward to see
It's a font thing.
Yeah, it really is. It's a font thing, and I'm always interested to see what they're going to do next with their next title card. Now, I think in the episode they'll be showing this week, it's still in the same time period. Still, I think around 1955. But I think they're going noir again because it looked like they were going black and white. Which I'll be interested to see what they do there. Okay, so just like last week, we talked about who was the star of the episode. So for Alien Commies from the Future, who do you think should have kind of stood out amongst either the regular cast or maybe a guest star who you thought did a really good job in this episode?
I think that the guy that was the
Are we talking about the Gerald Sharp, the Department of Defense?
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, Michael Gaston.
That's it, Michael
right.
Gaston.
He was actually.
I was trying to think of his name, and I'm sorry, Martin.
He was my co-performer of the week.
Yeah, I did not. I didn't read over the notes for today's game.
That's quite all right. Said so, and of course, I thought that he was kind of funny, though he wasn't. At that time, of course, because there was the communist scare and everything.
Right.
So
You bunch of commies.
right, and of course, America's the best. America, this is really, really prevalent.
America.
Right. So he was a very much a proud American, and of course, they initially when they captured the guy, Deke was telling, well, he's a pencil pusher, so we don't have any problem getting information out of him.
Right.
Well, come to find out, he was a former military. And according to him, that he wrote the field manual on interrogation. So do your worst. You're not going to scare me nuts. And of course, part of his charm was that he basically insulted or offended just about any nationality who happened to come to him. So of course, with Yo-Yo, it was Mamacita and Caliente. And of course, with Mac, it was a good thing that your boy here is there. And of course, even and I didn't catch it the first time when I did on the rerun where Mac said, "Did he just call me boy?"
Yeah, he did.
Mac pretty much by now wants to pretty much smack anybody from the past because they're all racist jerks. And of course, eventually he does smack him.
Well, he can't help it.
Right.
I
And he's sitting there telling Yo-Yo, nope, kid. We're not going to be violent about it, which was kind of funny because. He did it no matter who he was put in front of him. He did it when May came in front of him. He called her Oriental. And, of course, Yo-Yo said that she had to separate her from him, which wouldn't surprise me with May. But I thought Clark Gregg did a great job.
He's always does a great
Right,
job.
and I said, of course, that's
anyway.
because I love him as Coulson. But the whole deal where they're trying to figure out which of the scientists are Chronocoms, so they're asking them questions.
Right.
I thought was good. And of course, again, because of the time and the whole America Pride thing, I thought it was funny when he asked the guy if he thought John Wayne was overrated. That would have stirred me up. He said, don't you think he's kind of overrated? Yeah, I get it. You're rugged. You ride a horse. So what?
He was trying to incense them to make
Right,
sure that
and
they
he-
had feelings.
Right, and exactly what the guy did. So he said, so who cares about John Wayne? Who cares? Who cares about John Wayne? America cares.
He was very, very bothered by that.
Right, and that was their whole intention because they figured instead of trying to figure out who's a Chronogon, they just needed to find out who was human.
Correct.
So they're going to stir an emotion out of them. So one guy he asked, okay, think fast, Jimmy Stewart or Gary Cooper, and the guy tells him Van Johnson. And he goes, seriously? But he figures, well, you must not be a Chromicon because who the heck says Van Johnson? Also, Coulson apparently, even though he's an LMD, doesn't like to see people cry. Because Jim had got the scientist that was telling him about a romance story. I'm not sure what story she was talking about. But haven't you ever sacrificed something for the woman you love? And he starts tearing up. Said, yes. And Coulson goes, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, he's sitting there trying to comfort him. And he does the same thing on the bus when he's telling the little lady about the turtle turned over on her back and roasting in the sun. Die. Roasting in the sun, and you're not doing anything about it. How could you say that? So then he starts going, oh, I'm so sorry. So obviously the LMD Coulson is a sensitive fellow. And he also apparently explained that the word moist bothers people.
It is. That's very well known.
Oh, I didn't know that. And I guess especially when you emphasize
moist. That was funny. Right. So, but see, that's a real thing.
Really?
Yeah. It is.
Let's talk about why you know that.
Because I watch more stuff than you do.
Right. And I also thought it was funny when Jim was asking, brings up the first scientist and says, how many fingers am I holding up? And before you can even say, nope, you're wrong. It was 2. And the guy's looking at, I didn't even answer yet. Scientists hate to be told they're wrong.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
So, like I said, Michael Gaston as Gerald Sharp was good. And of course, Clark Gregg is always great as Coulson. It was also nice to see Enver Jokai return as like I said, Daniel Souza. Like I said, if you haven't watched Agent Carter, like I said, you can see it on Disney Plus. It's well worth watching. And like I said, him coming back just kind of reminds me that they got the short end of the stick as far as being canceled after only 2 seasons.
Hey, was he in that?
Yeah, Agent Carter. Yeah, like I said.
So he was the guy that played that guy.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, well, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. See now, and of course, we're still waiting, and we're assuming that somewhere along the line that
sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
That Peggy Carter. Well, I don't know if you've ever actually watched Agent Carter.
I haven't. But that's
like I said, but it is. I mean, but it is available to see, and it's only like 18 episodes total for the 2 seasons. 8 for the first season, 10 for the second. As we remember last week in the episode, Daisy told Deke to kill Ray. And of course, Mac told him, put the gun down. And I remember we mentioned last week that we thought that I would have been surprised had Mac not addressed Daisy about why she did that. Well, of course, in this episode, he did. Were you surprised that Mac questioned Daisy about why she
was I surprised?
Yeah.
No, I wasn't.
And why not?
Well, because he's the director now, and she gave that privilege to him.
Right, because she had the she
had the job. Well, she didn't want the job, so there you go. Now quit, just follow directions.
And of course, her thinking was, well, you didn't have all the information, so I made the call. And said, well, that wasn't your call.
That's still, you're not your call to make, no matter whether you had all the information or not.
Now, the other part of it was he also kind of dressed Deke down a little bit, saying that I know you're not an agent, but right now you're with us, so now you're acting like an agent. So when I tell you to do something, you do it. And even though I could have seen him maybe balking at that, he did not. He said, okay, yeah. Now, after the fact, him and Daisy talked, and Deke kind of got on Daisy for putting him in that position.
And he should have.
Right, and Daisy, of course, was going, well, I'll rank you, and, these are the kind of things.
I don't care. I'm not even an agent, and you probably shouldn't have been telling me
what to do
anyway.
And which is basically what he said, that, you're not, if my commander tells me to do it, I'll need to do it, but you weren't my commander. Says, and had I killed, and of course, then she's telling him that, well, he ends up being like the Grand Wizard of Hydra, and we could have saved a lot of lives by killing him. Said, yeah, but I would have had to live with that. It would have been on me. And of course, she's thinking, I don't remember you being quite so squeamish before about this kind of thing. He said, well, I'm not the same guy that you met from the lighthouse. I've changed, and I'm not going back to that. So she said, and that's when she ended up finding the information on Daniel Sousa, while they were having that conversation. Okay, like I said, and we already talked about Gemma pretending to be Peggy Carter. Okay, let's talk about there were some really good lines in the show. Just, by different people, kind of throwaway lines. We're going to just kind of mention them. And the first one I thought that was kind of funny was when they first got to Area 51. Coulson told Daisy that Area 51 is actually a SHIELD base, and as a matter of fact, all areas are SHIELD bases. So Daisy's sitting there thinking, "Wow, conspiracy me was conspiracy me was so right." Of course, because when the show started in season 1, that's what she did. She kind of was sharing state secrets to whoever would listen because she thought that the government shouldn't keep secrets. So I guess apparently that was one of the conspiracies she thought about, and she found out she was right. I also thought, we was talking about Gemma pretending to be Agent Carter, and of course, when Daniel Souza shows up, and he's told that Agent Carter's there, so he's going to go see her, and comes to find out that it's not her.
Right.
So he locks her and Coulson up, and when Daisy comes to see him, he's sitting there saying, said that woman who's pretending to be Agent Carter, she's doing the worst British imitation I've ever heard.
Yeah, you tell her that.
Right, yeah, that's what I thought. So Daisy said, yeah, you should tell her that, right? Also, again, when the beginning where Gemma was explaining that what they were doing basically were drafting off the Chronicons, following them wherever they went. So, of course, Deke said, yeah, it's sort of like Days of Thunder. He said, I'll explain it to you later. And I'm thinking, well, somebody's been watching old movies for even know what Days of Thunder is.
Right.
Another one, when of course they've been trying to get Mr. Sharp to spill his guts, and of course he's playing hardball, not talking to any of them. But they figure that Deke can get it out of him because Deke's white. And,
right.
Was
that whole episode was all about him insulting May because she was Asian, and Mac because he was black, and Yo-Yo because she was Spanish, and so he had all of his little smart aleck remarks to make all his racist comments that he was making to everybody, which wasn't funny really, but it was funny only because you knew exactly the time concept when this happened, as you could see that happening back in the 40s and 50s, early 50s.
And so of course when
not that it was right, but it was just
they're looking at Deke, and he said, what are you guys looking at me for? Why, I'm not a SHIELD agent. Why do you think he's going to listen to me? And they're sitting there staring. He said, so do we need to say it? And he's sitting there thinking, and then he starts, is it because of this? And he's sitting there emphasizing his face.
And this is why we need to do a video.
And we still make
podcast.
Right. So
is that what they call them, video podcasts?
Yeah, basically, what tends to happen is they'll record a video podcast, but then also have the audio separate. So they'll post the audio on one thing and then the whole thing on the other. So anyway, and of course he says, okay, I'm going to go talk to him, and then he starts complaining about stupid white privilege. And of course, when Deke talks to him, he doesn't get a whole lot further than any of them do, and it's funny because he's sitting there, Deke, when he comes in, he sits there applauding him, saying that, I got to tell you that you cost me some money because I had bet that you were going to break a long time ago, but you held out. He said, why, was this a test? I said, yeah, it was a test, and you passed with flying colors. He said, so perhaps you should tell me about the Helios. Say, is it safe? He says, yeah, I could tell you about that if I was a moron. But he did tell Deke that the Helios doesn't work. So he at least gave him that information that he didn't give to the other people. So getting back to the lines, another deal with Daisy when Agent Sousa had arrested Coulson and Gemma, and he went back to his office, and Daisy was in his office, and he's sitting there asking her and said, okay, who are you? And she goes, well, it doesn't matter who I am because I don't exist and we never met. But my initials are CIA. which I thought was funny. When Gemma and Coulson first get to the base, Dr. Vega is showing them around. Okay, so when he shows them the little communicator watch that they built, and I kept thinking Coulson's probably thinking,
I want that.
Yes,
I need that for my collection.
Right, and of course because he collected all, and I bet he was thinking, I could pocket some of this stuff. They won't miss it.
This is great.
Right, and of course that watch he had was a big old giant thing.
It's about the same size as your Apple Watch.
Right.
Well, it just doesn't have an antenna on.
Right. But most of my watches, the watches I've had, have been like
giant.
that, big giant things that you use for a dinner plate. So then he takes them to the Helios machine. He takes them to his tables. Okay, and this is the Helios machine. So Coulson says, "I thought it would have been bigger." Well, anyway, and I thought that they missed an opportunity there, and this was the opportunity, and you and I have discussed it before. It was 1955.
Right.
Back to the Future.
Yes.
Right. He should have told
November
him.
5th, 1955.
He should have told him when he said that that it was a model, and then he should apologize that it wasn't up to scale or painted.
Right.
And then he could have said, "It's great, Doc." Right. I thought that would have been funny had they did that, but they didn't do it. Maybe it was too obvious. I don't know.
Well, maybe. I don't know. Or maybe they did it and then said, "Nah, that's too stupid." Or else they said, "No, Back to the Future said we can't do that."
I said Coulson has mentioned all kinds of
pop culture
references, Star Wars, all over the place.
True,
so I don't think
true,
that would have been a problem. I thought it was a good segment, not so much a funny segment, but a good segment where Yo-Yo and May come in talking about female pilots. And of course, Yo wanted to know, so well, why would they, considering the era and the fact that most of these guys are sexist, why would they so readily accept female pilots?
So you can crash in planes and not worry about them? I don't know.
Well, no, May said that it's because the female
They were
pilots,
better.
right, they outflew the men, and they had to because their job was to pull targets around for the men to shoot at. And she went, "Wow, that's really impressive, but still very sexist." And she goes, "Yep, sure was." Now, and that brings up a point. This is supposed to at least be a secure shield installation. Did it not seem like anybody and everybody could just walk right up into that place? That place was discovered more than the deserted isle on Gilligan's Island. I mean, everybody was walking in there.
That's pretty much true, though. I agree with you on that.
Right. So, speaking of May and Yo-Yo, they're, the problems that they had going are still exist. And we got a little more insight into May's issue, because when she first woke up in the pod, she was having the dream of all these people in the spirit world grabbing her. Mm-hmm. Well, this was the problem she had at the base when they threw the gas canisters in to get the scientists to try to figure out which one of them was a chronicom. Right. And they're all trying to escape, and they're jostling May. So she basically has an anxiety attack because all those people are touching her, and has to get out of the room. So there's something about when she spent time in that spirit world that's still bothering her. But and it has something to do with, like I said, I'm not sure if it was because of them touching her or what it is, but that's part of it. But we still don't know exactly what it is. She seemed a little more like herself in this episode, but she still had that. Yo-Yo still can't seem to use her powers. She still can't seem to run. Because when they found the chronicom after throwing the gas in, and she took up the stairs, Yo-Yo tried to pursue her, but couldn't move. Mm-hmm. She just kind of froze where she's at. Now, again, we talked last week where we thought that it was a mental thing. I still think it is, though we don't know what it is that's blocking that for her. But she's still having that issue. Okay, so they figure out what the Chronicons want to do, and of course what they want to do is basically blow up the Helios machine and take out, because at that time all these SHIELD VIPs are there at the base. They basically want to take out the early brain trust of SHIELD, so SHIELD can't function. So to do that, what they want to do is, if you remember back in season 5, when they were trapped in the future and had to get back using the monolith, Enoch hooked himself to the machine, basically made himself the power supply to run it. Well, that's what they wanted to do with the Helios machine. Is because the reason that Sharp said it didn't work is because they couldn't get a sustained enough energy source to run it. So their plan was to get one of the Chronocoms to attach himself to it, basically sacrifice himself to blow it up, and then take out half the shield base. And of course, May and Yo-Yo went after her because she was a female, or at least that's what she looked like, at the site, and was fighting her, trying to keep her from attaching to the thing. In the meantime, Gemma was at the base because they showed him the first prototype of the EMP, which is the device that Fitz uses all the time to disable machinery.
Correct.
So Gemma was trying to fix it so it would work, because she figures it would not only take out the Helios machine, but it would also take out the Chronocoms. Of course, it also took out Coulson. But
right.
So anyway, while Yo-Yo and May were fighting her, trying to basically keeping her distracted from completing her job, Gemma got the EMP working and triggered it, and it took out the Chronocom, took out the Helios machine, took out Coulson. And of course the Chronocoms, as we've seen in previous episodes, when they fail in their mission, they basically just self-destruct, they melt down. So the one at the site melted down, the one at the base also melted down. But during this time, Sharp had escaped out of his bonds. Right after Deke had talked to him, he had escaped from his ropes and went into the Zephyr and saw all the futuristic stuff. And of course, Mac and Deke were standing there. So he's sitting there wanting to know what kind of communist stuff is this. And Matt comes over and says, okay, you need to calm down, and then punches him out. He said, I could explain it, but I don't want to. So, of course, now they still had him to deal with, and he'd seen the ship. Okay, so what they did is they took advantage of, again, the time they're in and the UFO craze that there was. So they basically laid him out on the ground and got into a Quinjet and hovered over him until he woke up. And you could tell when Mac was doing this, he was like, almost like he was humiliated that he felt like he had to do it. Where he basically, called him an earthling, and told him that you're not going to talk to anyone about this, because if you do, we're going to abduct you again and you're going to be probed. And he said it like, I can't believe I'm saying this. And of course, then they turned around and left. And of course, naturally, Mr. Sharp immediately ran back to the diner where they all first met, and told him how he'd been abducted by aliens, and he thinks they were communists from the future. And of course, the waitress is sitting there looking at him. Yep, we got another live one. So apparently, this is a common occurrence over there. And in that way, of course, if he tells anybody, they're not going to believe him anyway. So they maintain the timeline. Okay, so where does that leave us here? The Chromicons have been foiled once again. Curses! It wasn't for you stupid kids! But of course, they're still not going to stop. We've already seen from the preview of next week that Daniel Souza is involved in this next episode. And to what extent, we're not sure, but apparently, at least if you go by Coulson's voiceover, that Dan Souza was one of the first SHIELD agents to die in the line of duty. Now, does that mean that they're trying to prevent that from happening, or what? We don't know. We know that May's still dealing with her issues, Yo-Yo's still dealing with her issues, and as you mentioned in the beginning,
we still haven't seen Fitz!
Right, we still have no Fitz. Now, like I said, from what we've seen from the previews of next episode, like I said, I'm almost wondering if at least part of it's going to be in black and white, because most of the clips they showed were in black and white. Now, as if that was, and I don't know if those are going to be flashbacks where they do that, or how they're going to do that, but it certainly wouldn't surprise me for SHIELD, Agents of SHIELD to do an entire black and white episode, if they choose to do that. But that's kind of where we're at this point. Like I said, we have got 9 episodes left.
Yes, we do.
And so far they've all been really good.
I think so.
And like I said, the whole time going back to different time periods I've liked. No Game of Thrones issues to this point.
No.
So that's good. And no Quantum Leap issues to this point, I'm assuming. Though they are still back in time. So, and that was another thing I thought was interesting, where Gemma told them that it takes them less energy to move forward in time than it does to go back. Now, of course, I'm thinking it may take more energy, but if you're following the chronocoms, you don't have a choice. If they decide to suddenly go back in time, I assume then you're going back in time. But just so happens at this point, because they didn't think they were going to go back as far as they did. They didn't think they were going back to 1931.
Yeah.
They probably assumed they were going to start in the time they're at now, right around when S.H.I.E.L.D. was formed.
Right.
But from this point forward, you're going to assume that you're going to keep moving forward. Like I said, and basically, and that was something that Mac had said, that, because we are drafting off the chronocoms, we're basically always a step behind them.
Right.
I guess the fortunate thing is apparently most of the chronocoms plans are slow moving plans. So, but you still have time once you get there to decipher what's going on and stop it.
Right.
If they were something they could do quickly, by the time you realize where you're at and what's happening, it could be over. It could be over with. And that was another thing that didn't happen this time, which probably tells you that they're not ready to leave this time period. Is there was no clock that suddenly kicked on that says you're getting ready to leave.
Right.
So which tells me that the next episode is still based in that same.
At least for the first part of it,
right?
Anyway.
True enough, because they could do a time leap in the middle of an episode if they decide to do that. And even though we know that Enoch is around in 1955, we never saw him. Like I said, I'm assuming that's not going to be the last we're going to see of Enoch. No, we haven't seen any proof otherwise of it.
I'm telling you that Enoch was with Fitz. I'm telling you.
Well, we also know he was with Koenig in 1931.
Yeah, and he might just be all over the place. His timeline doesn't matter because he's not a real thing. He's just a thing. He's not a person.
So why have we been talking about him then? He's useless.
No, he's awesome. We love him.
So anyway, that's pretty much.
Since he's an inanimate object.
Well, so then if you want to go by that, so is Coulson, so is.
Well, true, but we still love their personalities. How about that?
Right. So they're okay. They're like good toasters. You miss them when they're gone.
A refrigerator and an air conditioner. Those are the things you miss when they're gone. Since we had another power outage. Oh.
That's
for a whole nother day. We might discuss power outages at our next fantastic Kathy and Martin's Coffee Binge. Okay. Don't put that in there.
It's too late. It's already out there. Oh no, it's out there. What will we do?
What are we gonna do now?
What's that from?
It's Friends.
No.
It's from something else.
Yes.
It's out there. I don't know. It's a problem.
Harry Met Sally.
Oh yeah.
You can't take it back. It's already out there. Oh my God, it's out there. What are we gonna do?
You're right.
So that's also from Harry Met. I know you're right. So he's never gonna leave his wife, right?
Right. You're right.
The late Carrie Fisher. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, so that's like I said. So that's episode 3 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And until episode 4, I'm Martin.
And I'm Kathy.
And we'll see you next time on Martin and Kathy's Coffee Binge.
Bye.
Bye.